Welcome back to The Person Everyone Needs. I'm your host, Webb Hoggard, and today we're going to kind of finish up the story of Jonathan. Not so much that his impact ends and what we talk about today, but definitely there will be, his life ends. And so today that's what we're going to be talking about, is how Jonathan finished his walk. And so today we're going to talk about his relationship with David and the latter years. What a wonderful picture of his love. And again, he was a man of favor, he was a man of valor, and he was a man of honor. And so today we're going to talk about how he ended honorably. So David, he's on the run. He wasn't a flawless person in this season of life. There's actually several parts of this season that seem a little bit embarrassing. He made some terrible decisions, David. He ran to Ahimelech, the priest, to get something to eat. He lied to him, took the holy bread, and this was seen as aiding the enemy to Saul. And so Saul comes to Ahimelech and murders him. Saul quickly makes rout of this moment that Ahimelech was trying to help David, because he thought that David was loyal to the king, and David was, but Saul saw it as a threat. So then David runs to Gath, the hometown of Goliath. This just seems like a bad story. He's heading to the enemy. With Goliath's sword strapped to him, entering the town and seeking refuge, the ruler seeks to kill him. David has to act like a lunatic to get out of there. Foaming from the mouth, he spooks the Philistines, and they let him run away, instead of killing him like they had planned. The ancient world feared the insane, and David realizes this is the only tactic to escape. So he runs to Moab, and his friends and his family flee for fear of being killed by Saul. He gains a small army of worthless men and moves back into the Judean hills. David defeats a couple of strongholds of enemy nations, and Saul hears of it and begins to run him down. Saul chases David through the wilderness, and David outruns him the whole time. On two different occasions, David could have killed Saul, but chose not to harm God's anointed. During this pursuit, Jonathan finds a way to sneak into David's camp for one last meeting. 1 Samuel 23 says that Jonathan strengthened David's hand in the Lord. What an incredible friend. He didn't attempt to be David's strength. He didn't try to diminish Saul's anger any longer. He knew David was who God chose, and the only way he would make it is to strengthen himself in God. He put the strength of the Lord he had received into David. Here, they made their third and final covenant. This time, Jonathan declared that the throne would be David's, and he hoped to be at his right hand. Can you see the level of honor Jonathan is giving to David? He has placed David's destiny before and above his own. No greater love has anyone than he who lays down his life for his friend. So David had learned a valuable lesson on this day. He learned to strengthen his hand in the Lord. This phrase is used to explain David's confidence in one of the saddest of his outlaw days. While his army was returning from another battle, some Amalekites had attacked the city of Ziklag, where David and his army lived. They had seen and taken every woman, child, and animal and burned the city to the ground. David had lost everything, and at this moment, even his men had come to stone him. They were mourning, they were enraged, and they turned against David. David strengthened his hand in the Lord. David squares his shoulders and says, "Kill me or let me go get them back." The men ferociously chased down the band of raiders and killed every single one in the band except a few cowards that fled on camels. Every woman, child, and animal was returned unharmed. The victory happened because he learned how to strengthen his hand in God. Jonathan taught him how to do that. The chase for David continued as long as there were no other enemies. While the Philistines continue to pursue and attack Israel, Saul becomes afraid he may lose the war. He can't seem to get God to talk to him, so he seeks out a psychic. A major issue with finding one of those in Israel is that the king, Saul himself, had removed all the mediums. He sends his men to find someone who still works in the forbidden field and asks her to contact Samuel, the old trusted preacher who was now been dead for many years. He never recovered. Saul, from the moment he looked at the crowd and became fearful of losing them, he's tried to get around God's expectations. He knows and trusts Samuel, but never sought the heart of God for himself. He was a coward. He never lived full-hearted. He was afraid of the kingship, the people who was supposed to lead. He was afraid of them. He was afraid of the Philistines. He was afraid of David, and he was afraid of losing his throne for the rest of his days. He lived in fear. He hides and makes bad vows and chases heroes and murders priests. He calls on mediums. He always wanted to look like a man of faith and always came out, a coward. Fear ruled his life. If only he would have put his trust in God. The closest thing to faith Saul ever shows in his trust is in his trust with Samuel, the prophet. This image that shows in what the medium conjures up tells Saul that he has been rejected and will die in battle. Saul's retreat of faith would come to an end that next day. He dies on the field of battle. He and his sons are taken out in one day. Even our hero Jonathan is killed in battle. This marks a divine shift in the direction of Israel. The royal family is taken out in one day, and now the stage is set for Jonathan's covenant to come to pass. David becomes the new king, and he mourns both Saul and Jonathan. 1 Samuel opens by saying, Saul and Jonathan, beloved and lovely, in life and in death, they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. You, daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you luxuriously in scarlet, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan lies slain on your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant have you been to me. Your love to me was extraordinary, surpassing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen and the weapons of war perished. At the very end, Jonathan, still loyal to his father and king, still lives the life of the prince of Israel and a strong warrior of God. He prepares the way for the next king in every way, even in his death. In 1 Samuel, we see the apathy of Eli, who refuses to change even when he knows his whole family will pay the consequences. The anger of Samuel when the people of Israel refuse his sons as their leadership. The cowardice of Saul is on constant display, but Jonathan, he lived a man of favor, valor, and honor. He lived out faith, hope, and love, strong and courageous to the very end. The mark of Jonathan's greatness was most bright in David. David becomes the bright star of the kingdom of Israel, the unifying king who defeats and defends on all fronts. The CEO-type leader that designs the government to bring unity to God's people. The fundraiser for Solomon's magnificent temple. David never forgot Jonathan. David fulfills his covenant. After years of conquest and building Israel, David seeks to know if there's anyone from the house of Saul that he can bless. He finds out that Jonathan has one son that still lives. Sadly, as the family of Saul fled the capital, Mephibosheth fell and irreversibly maimed his legs. He was lame for the rest of his life. This was apparently so debilitating that the writer of 2 Samuel cannot mention him without reminding the reader he's crippled. David immediately sends for him to come to the palace. Mephibosheth bows as he enters, and David greets him by saying, Do not fear, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. He remembers the covenant and gives all of Saul's land to Mephibosheth, taking it from Saul's servant Ziba. Ziba was ordered to serve Mephibosheth just like he had served Saul. During the Iron Age, when strength and power were on grand display, having a crippled person eat at your table was not glamorous. There were no points for being inclusive or politically correct, yet David invited Mephibosheth to sit at his table for the rest of his life. No wheelchairs, no ramps. Every night someone would carry Mephibosheth to the table of the king. King David treated the son of his best friend as good as Jonathan had treated him. During a trying time in David's reign, Ziba and Mephibosheth had a falling out that damaged David's view of both of them. Yet out of honor for Jonathan, Mephibosheth remained at the king's table all of his days. The last time we see Mephibosheth's name, David is having to settle a political debt made by Saul by giving up several of his family members. Once again, he honors Jonathan by sparing his son alone. Jonathan made a covenant with David that exalted David higher than himself. Covenants of friendship, family, and of David's exaltation would actually be carried out by David. What was meant to be a promotion for David became a responsibility for him to remain true to the end. Jonathan was willing to sacrifice his place on the throne and ensured his son's place at the king's table. I'm going to say that again. Jonathan was willing to sacrifice his place on the throne, and that ensured his son's place at the king's table. Honor is powerful. Jonathan inspired so many people in his life. He influenced soldiers and citizens as the prince of the land. He invited many into greater conquest and adventure. He invested in the life and leadership of David, and his greatest contribution was what he left in others. Your legacy, it's not what you leave behind, it's who you leave behind. Your legacy is marked by the souls that your thumbprint are on. So who are you leading today? Who are you encouraging? Who are you modeling for? And who are you helping to get to a better place than you ever have? People who show up and show honor, that's a person that everyone needs.